Okay, give it a second. All right, stream is up. The view count hasn't gone up, but it usually takes a while, so give it a second. Anyway, yeah, so thank you for tuning into the stream. This is a special stream, much different than usual. Normally, obviously, I do stuff related to Gamergate and Not Your Shield, but while this is somewhat relevant, this is a bit of a special stream this time because, based on a conversation on Twitter, a couple of gamers wanted to share their experience as to how gaming really impacted their lives in a positive way, and that's why I entitled this stream "Gamers Share How Gaming Saved Their Lives." So if you're tuning in, thanks a lot because this is a bit different than usual, and if it's possible, I will still continue with the streams I'm planning to do so. But for now, thank you for watching, and yeah, I'll just hand it off to the people who are gonna share their stories. So the app up first is a couple. The first is Gwen and Altaria. I think I pronounced that correctly.
Yep.
So yeah, so you ladies can go first.
All right. Well, we are a lesbian couple. We are engaged. We're not. We are planning a wedding. Wedding's not happening yet. Money, of course. But we each have our own sort of answer to this question, our own perspective, our own story. And I am Altaria. We are using Gwen's account, but I am Gwen's fiance, and I'm going to start. Some of you may have heard how I'm referring to myself, sort of my handle, Altaria, and said, hey, isn't that a Pokemon? Yes, it is. It is a Pokemon from the 3rd generation, Land of Hoenn. And it was really Pokemon that not only got me into gaming in the first place, but has also always been there for me throughout my life. My parents were rather strict and kind of, high expectations kind of folks, and we weren't allowed any video game consoles except for Game Boys because we have very distant family and we would regularly drive to see them. These were 7 or 8 or more hour trips in the car. So my parents got my sister and I each a Game Boy, kind of to avoid the "are we there yet?" And they got us Pokemon Red and Blue versions. I took Red version, and I was hooked instantly. I got into the trading card game. I have a stuffed Pikachu from when I was 7. I still have it. It came with me to college. And and I also kind of followed the rest of the series, the games, as they came out. I got a Game Boy Advance and Gold, Silver, and Crystal, and then I, graduated to Game Boy Advance SPs, and I got Sapphire. And it was in Sapphire that I met the Pokemon Altaria. And I know that back from Gold and Silver, Ho-Oh is the traditional sort of, people point to as the Pokemon that represents a phoenix, or at least the Chinese Feng Huang. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But the, dragon bird. But, I looked at Altaria, and it's dragon and flying types, and it's a dragon bird. And I looked at it and I said, that is a phoenix. That is the representation of a phoenix. And I've ever since sort of associated myself with Altaria and with the concept of a phoenix constantly rising again, no matter what brought me down. So, people have sort of chuckled at my being a Pokenerd, but Pokemon has really been there for me through all of the ups and downs of my childhood and my life. I was bullied as a kid. I had, my own issues at home. It's not like my parents abused me. There was no physical or any abuse, but there was definitely emotional abuse and just really pushing me to do things a kid shouldn't do. And I, Pokemon was my distraction, my escape when I needed to get away from the crappy reality that was. And every time I've been knocked down, I've looked to the Phoenix and to the representation of the Phoenix that I've seen in Altaria and gotten back up again. So, and I have in fact been suicidal throughout my life. So, again, with the Phoenix rising once again. So, that's my bit.
Wow, that was it's pretty good. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
All right, so I think we have Gwen coming up next.
Yep.
I kind of feel I tend to like going last, but I can go second. I always tend to have very long stories because I like to go over all the nitty-gritty details, but I think I can cut it in half and just focus on the worst moment of my life, though I'll just try to go over it all quickly. Games have been with me ever since, like, I had Atari, then I had NES, and then I had PC and SNES, and, I had a lot of game consoles, computer games, this thing and that. And I always, ever since I played Dragon Spirit, I wanted to make games. And all that ever happened when I was a kid was my dad would throw it all away, all my designs away. So that wasn't nice, but my dad would buy the latest technology for the household, but he'd often forget to allow us to get food, to save money for food. It was weird. But anyway, at one point, games were my distraction from emotional abuse from my father, physical abuse from my half-brother, later abuse from my grandfather once me and my mom had left my father, and it was games that I was able to turn to because, I could succeed at something in games, and I thought they were fun, and I had inherited a bunch of D&D books, and I love those books so much. And eventually, as in all my whole life moving, it's having to make friends again and again. It's not pleasant. But I always found that gaming, I could find other people that played games, and everywhere I went, and I'd be able to make friends with them. So gaming really kept me connected to people. But there was one point in my life when I ended up moving up from one side of the country to the other side of the country. Like, coast to coast. So, when we got here, I didn't have any friends. There, at the high school I ended up going to, there was no one that played any games, and there was no way to connect with anyone. And I went through a period in which I had no friends, and we didn't have money. I tried playing the games we already had. It was hard fixing computers because we had less money. But I did have some games, and I had no friends. And at one point, I figured, well, no one wants to be friends with me no matter what I do. They complained about me for smelling, but I washed every day. And they made fun of me for always having my head in the book, for always being excited at all my classes, for always just doodling ideas for games constantly, because even my dad could never quash my love for wanting to make games. But there was this period in which there was no one to share my ideas with. I had no friends. I dropped out of high school. I spent a year completely isolated, and I had a chat room where supposedly I had friends, and then I do one dumb thing, and everyone in that chat room, well, they weren't really friends. It was just a bunch of other people who I recognize now as hurting, but between the isolation at school and then sudden isolation online, I almost killed myself. I almost killed myself, but then I remembered, and I know this is going to be weird to everyone, but I was going to kill myself. I had figured out how I'd been doing research on how to do it painlessly, and there was this game, my favorite game, was Lufia and the Fortress of Doom, followed by Secret of Mana. And I figured, well, before I off myself, I should probably beat some of my favorite games, one more time for old time's sake. And so I went through, and as I played Lufia, which has one of my favorite stories of all time. And the characters, and just, I named the main character Butch because, they're sprites. I can pretend. And, I played, and I put myself into the game as the person, and I made stories in my head about sort of stuff the characters might have said in between. I mean, there's a lot of one thing about the game is the characters said a lot of stuff in between situations, and as I played it, and I just sat there, I played like non-stop, searching for everything until I beat it, because I guess I really didn't want to die as much as I did want to end the suffering, and had planned to end the suffering. And then, as I played it, I just said, if I know it's weird, but if I die, who's gonna save the day? These games are there. I mean, I didn't have a lot of friends, and so I wasn't really thinking. It didn't even occur to me that other people were playing the games. It was just in my own head. It was like, who's gonna be able to save the day if I'm gone? And then I said, okay, well, maybe I'll just play Secret of Mana, and that was another one of my favorite games. The story wasn't quite as touching in some ways as Lufia, but it was there. And then, I played those, and I said, well, if I'm lucky, maybe one day. By the time I had beaten them both, I said, if I die now, I'll never be able to repay the kindness of the people who made these games. And I remembered a little bit of my dream that one day I wanted to make games, or even if it's just running D&D games, I wanted to bring other people the joy of gaming so that they can feel like how I felt when the games made me happy. And I realized that if I died, I would never be able to repay society for all of the love and joyous moments I got playing games. So that's the short version.
Nice. See, that's really good to hear, because while I'm no professional or no expert on anything like psychological issues, but one thing I have found is that gaming acts as a very powerful positive reinforcement. That it gives you something that sometimes the real world cannot, and it gives you a purpose. It gives you the feeling that you can accomplish something, and that in being able to accomplish that one thing, it reaffirms your existence as a human being. Gaming can be quite cathartic in that sense, by giving you an outlet for you to do something, save the day, or make changes in a meaningful way. And I think that's why in a lot of cases, and seemingly from the sound of it yours, it's allowed you to find an alternative. From the sounds of it, it seems pretty harsh what was happening to you. But I'm glad that you found an outlet through gaming, and I'm glad that you found a way to, reconnect instead of just offing yourself. So I think that's definitely a good story to hear.
Thank you.
And besides, as I'm sure you found out, you managed to meet more and more gamers who shared your interests, and I think that definitely helped as well.
Even marrying one.
There you go. So.
We met at a gaming club.
Yep, we met at a gaming club. True story. We met at the college gaming club.
I see.
Anyway, I'm gonna mute and listen to everyone else now.
All right. So up next we have this guy named Soul over here who's going to share his story as well. So you're up now.
Thank you. Those were some beautiful stories you guys told, and you guys had so much in common with a lot of what I've gone through, and I kind of thought that was the case, and they were very touching to me, and thank you for sharing those. I originally didn't really want to share such experiences because I was afraid of people saying, oh, how pathetic, some person thinks gaming saves their life, or being laughed at for being something like a liar or something. But early on in my life, everybody's been trying to prevent me from being a gamer, right? So my mom thought it would be a great idea to pick up an NES, and doctors were saying, no, don't get him an NES, it'll be terrible for his development. And she ignored the doctor entirely and got me an NES anyway with Super Mario Brothers. And I don't know if you guys remember what level 3 was like, but there was this one orange turtle on top of the first 2 trees at the very beginning that always killed me. And I was like, that turtle has to be different from all the rest, because I couldn't actually step on it and kill it every single time like I could with everything else. And it just turned out I sucked, but you know. But as I grew up through life, I was constantly being teased by kids and bullies in school for being different, and my like of video games. And I guess the first time that suicidal thoughts entered my mind was at around 10 years old. This group of kids got it in their mind that I was gay. I'm not, but they got this in their mind that I was gay and decided to beat the ever-living hell out of me. I had to go to a doctor. It was such a traumatizing experience. I can't actually remember a good portion of it, but they had been kicking me so hard in my balls that the doctors weren't sure if I would ever be able to reproduce in my lifetime or not. I still don't know for sure. And that day I had a lot of suicidal thoughts. I didn't want to live in a world where people would just beat you up for being different or the things you love or all that. And I stopped and played a game called Final Fantasy IV. I'm sure you're familiar with it. And the story is a story about redemption, truth, and fighting for what's right. And you know, the idea that fighting for what was right was something that even somebody with the darkest of hearts, a dark knight, could redeem himself and become a paladin that would fight for truth to try and do something else for the rest of the world. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I wanted to. I was going to take a knife and stick it straight through my head and see what happened. I didn't have anything else to do it with. I was 10 years old at the time. But I knew knives were supposed to be something that could hurt. But I couldn't do it. I believed in the idea of a dark knight could achieve redemption and go on to do something important for the world. Maybe it wasn't worth it. But I went on further in my life and continued with all this bullying and this harassment and this exclusion from being around other people. And at the age of 16, I was deep into Pokemon and got teased a lot for playing Pokemon at school and enjoying Pokemon. Somebody stole my Pokemon Pikachu walker. I don't even remember why those things were popular. They were just pieces of shit, weren't they? But somebody felt it was necessary to steal it from me. I was dealing with getting my backpack stolen, people just treating me like shit, all for the things I love. People would make fun of me for enjoying Pokemon, and I still do to this day. But one day in art class, while I was making what was it? I was making a statue of Samus Aran, building a statue of the pinnacle Metroid character. I have it to this day. It can stand on its own. It's a monumental feat to create a 30-pound clay figure that can just stand on its own. There was this girl who decided to start making fun of me. Threatened to sick a whole bunch of people on me and have them beat me up. I didn't know how to respond to being told, hey, I'm going to have a whole bunch of people beat you up. So I took a glass of water that I was using to keep my statue dry in there as it was supposed to be dry in and dumped it on her clay statue. And I said, if you're going to try and do something like that to me, why don't you bring it on now? And the teacher brought us out to have a conversation, said, how could you do this to this person? How could you treat this person like that? Because, of course, she spoke low enough that she couldn't be heard, that she was threatening, making a threat on my life. And I said, you people, praise the people that beat up other people, praise the people that talk down to other people and threaten them. And I said, if you're looking for the causes of problems in the world, it's taking the people who can't speak up for themselves down. And she just started berating on me some more for doing the wrong thing, for daring to dump pour water on that poor clay statue as if it hurts it. And I punched the wall near me. I put a crack in the wall. There was a wall that had a bunch of art on it. And I went to the school recently, and that crack still stands there today, where I punched it. I said, you don't know anything about me. You can't even begin to know. So don't treat me like I'm something less. And I walked away. I went to the school counselor, and they had a conversation with me, sent me home for the day to relax. Later that night, I didn't know what to do. My mom didn't punish me for it. She wasn't angry about me for it, but I felt truly and well alone against all these things that I had to deal with in the world, where people would make fun of me for my likes, make fun of me for who I was, make fun of me for what I was. So I sat down, looked over my Pokemon things, and I threw in my Pokemon Blue version, which I had recently reset because I was trying to catch more powerful Mewtwo's, because for some reason I figured out some Mewtwo's were more powerful than others, and I went through from the very beginning to the very end, and I was like, I don't want to stop playing games, and if I'm not alive, I can't play them anymore. So yeah, that's my stories or my moments of suicide for gaming saved my life.
Thanks a lot for sharing. It's quite the hard story to listen to, and while I haven't gone through anything in particular myself, I can definitely empathize and see why that's such a horrible experience. And I think that's the beauty of it above else, that despite just how horrible that situation was, that you could find that solace in gaming, because I don't think anyone could really put up with something like that, and I probably couldn't. Not that I'm anyone special, but rather I don't even know if I could have dealt with that, quite frankly. So I think it says a lot about your character that you were able to pull through it despite all that. And quite frankly, the world can be unfair, because all those situations that you describe, people from the outside might look in and just think that that's silly, but trust me, I think I speak for everyone here when I say we definitely understand, and it's not silly to think that something like gaming could help you out. And to be honest with you, the thing that people don't really understand when it comes to gaming is that, like any other medium of entertainment, it's there to lift up our spirits when it matters the most. And the fact is that people spend so much of their time playing sports or watching TV or chasing money or chasing drugs or whatever, and all these things, well, these are lifestyles and people are well within their rights to choose them. However, we as gamers, we found a whole new medium, a virtual space where we can do so much more than that. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So nobody should ever have to feel ashamed for, for being a gamer. So I definitely, thanks a lot for sharing that. That was really good. That was really powerful.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot for that. And okay, so next up should be I think Lisa. Lisa's next.
Yeah, I just want to say, if I could give you guys a hug right now, I would. Because no one deserves to go through all that crap. There's a reason I refuse to use my last name. I grew up in an abused home. Emotionally, physically, and this is the first time I'm saying this in an open forum, sexually. Video games were really the only thing I had control over in my life. Because if I was at home, I was getting beaten up for whatever reason. If I was at school, I had people making fun of me because I didn't have the new clothes and I had to go to Salvation Army or whatever. Hi! Sorry. So, I've been a gamer for a good chunk of my life. I'm 28 now. I got a Game Boy when I was 5, and I got a Sega Genesis when I was 6. Family services finally stepped in when I was 14, and after a couple of hit and misses, I was put in a really good foster home. And one of the first things my foster mom gave me was a Nintendo 64. And that helped me really get rid of a lot of aggression, especially first-person shooters, and fighting games. I love fighting games. So, over time, I eventually had to go back to my hometown because my foster mom died. And I kind of moved around a bit. Spent some time in Texas. I live in Georgia. Spent some time in Florida, Alabama. The thing is, a lot of the abuse that I went through, I had repressed. And after leaving an abusive marriage, I got together with the guy I'm with now. We've been together for almost 5 years now. And he was a casual gamer when he and I got together. I'm the one that turned him into the hardcore gamer he is now. And one day I started having flashbacks to the sexual abuse. And I'm really trying not to cry right now. But I finally got confirmation from my family that it actually happened. And all of my friends pretty much put me on suicide watch. Because they knew I had a history of suicide attempts, of self-harming. And it was around this time that my friend Dustin kind of brought up to Ty, Lisa's a fan of American McGee's Alice. There's a sequel coming out. I know you guys just got a PS3, why don't you pre-order it? And he got it for me, knowing that it was a more psychologically based game. Knowing that I would get really involved with the puzzles and that I would relate to Alice. I cried tears of joy at the end of that game. And it gave me hope that I can overcome my issues too. My past was shit, but you know what? I'm still here for some reason. And I think that American McGee's Alice and its sequel really saved my life. Gaming in general saved my life. Because if I didn't have the foster mom to give me a Nintendo 64, if I didn't have my boyfriend to pre-order a game for me, I would have been dead years ago. And that's my story.
Thanks for sharing. That was that's unfortunate to hear how that went, and especially with finding out something like that down the line seems very horrible. So I'm definitely glad that you shared that. My question is to you now that I do you feel how do you feel now knowing that gaming has had such a big impact on your life? Do you feel that you definitely feel like it was worth it? You definitely feel that gaming has impacted your life in a very meaningful and big way?
Absolutely.
Right, good. So, because it's interesting to hear these stories because I have heard before that gaming has been an outlet for people to find a way out of something like depression, out of suicide, out of the horrible life that they're having. And it's interesting that one of you guys mentioned the idea of control, and I think that's a big part of a lot of people's lives, that they don't feel in control of anything. They don't feel in control of anything at all. They have no choices. They're not given the chance to do anything. They have no opportunity to do anything. And while gaming isn't anything concrete, that positive reinforcement it's something that no other entertainment medium could provide. And while something like movies or music are good to an extent, the difference is we are the ones who are choosing the outcome. We are the ones who are gaining that. And before, people didn't have these options. People still treat gaming as a medium in a very detached way. Like they don't understand it, like it's an alien creature. But what's been so amazing, especially from hearing you guys' stories, is just how influential it's been in terms of people's lives. And I definitely think that's a fantastic thing. So I will say, I'm going to ask you this as well. Would you people be interested in hearing my story? Although, to be fair, I don't really think it's nowhere near as grand or even as interesting, I guess, as your story. So I just want to know that if it's something you're interested in hearing, because I don't want to keep you guys here. Now that you've shared your stories, I have no reason to keep you here.
I'm fine with that.
Everyone's story is worthwhile. I think that's something even you covered yourself a few minutes ago.
Every story matters.
Absolutely.
Let's hear it.
That's why gamers are here.
Okay. All right. Well, I just felt like, considering you guys shared your stories, I'll share something with you guys that honestly I haven't even told just people in general, I guess, because no one cares. As I said, my story isn't anywhere near as deep or dark or anything. It's nothing that bad. Suffice to say, I think my life's been much fairer than some people. But my story, it's just kind of that. What happened after a long while is, even after my teenage years, I mean, I'd had my share of problems. I've dealt with people, bullies, etc., like that. But there'd been nothing, sorry, particularly big that happened in my life that really made me feel down. But when I was entering university or college, I guess I should say, everybody has these big expectations. Everybody, you watch all the movies, the TV shows, you listen to the stories. You always think the university is going to be this big, grand adventure with hilarious antics where you meet new friends and amazing things happen, or you meet that awesome girl or guy, and all that kind of stuff. So even I had been caught up in that hype. So despite the fact that my teenage years were relatively good, ups and downs just like anyone else, I'd met a lot of awesome people through some of the social groups I was with, and I'd met a lot of people who liked gaming and anime, and that was great. So when I entered sixth form, which is, I guess, the latter 2 years of high school for Americans, I still had those friends, and I met more people. I met more gamers, and it was just really interesting overall. But when I got to university, things changed in perhaps the most dramatic way. I can't really say where it went wrong. I can't really say it was any one person's fault, but I had to live off of campus because I couldn't afford the accommodation. So I didn't live with everyone else. I didn't live with the people on campus. And unfortunately, what ended up happening is it's not really like what they tell you, because all the people had already formed cliques. Like all the girls there, because I did psychology, so all the girls, it was predominantly girls, they'd already formed their friendship groups. They didn't really have interest in anyone else. And the second that they hear you're off campus, they basically just shut you out. And unfortunately, what began to happen is I wasn't making any friends at all. And to most people, that seems funny. Like, oh, well, how can you go to university and not make any friends? That's exactly what happened. Of course, down the line, I mean, to give a quick summary, down the line, I had met one or two people who were cool to me. You know, some of them were acquaintances, some of them were actual friends. And every so often, I might run into one of my old friends who happened to swing by the university. However, overall, I didn't actually make a single person I could call a friend, because even the quote-unquote friends that I had, they were just people who thought I was cool, talked to me, and checked up on me. But I knew they had their own friends, and they weren't the kind of person who'd be interested in giving me the time of day. So it reached the point where all I could do was talk to my old friends, either through Facebook, Xbox Live, or whatever. And talking to them was fine. However, they didn't really understand my plight, because they weren't in university, and they kind of thought that I don't know, they thought I'd messed up, so to speak, that despite all my grand ambitions, especially about how I was going to go real crazy university, none of it happened. Didn't have any friends. I was stuck at, my dorm room all the time, pretty much just playing games. And it reached the point where, I don't know, I just realized I couldn't rely on them. Obviously, my family didn't understand. My family's not interested in games. And given the fact that my friends, I mean, I'm not necessarily blaming them, because how could they know? They weren't there. They were severely unempathetic. And perhaps at the time I needed them most, they did not care. They just didn't. And it was at that point when I was at wit's end, when I realized that, you know what, nobody's going to actually care about me. And I remember thinking to myself that what's going to happen? There was an entire day where I just sort of sat staring at the floor thinking, is anything interesting ever going to happen? Am I ever going to, meet someone awesome? Am I ever going to make friends? Am I ever going to have an exciting adventure? And these things never happen. It put me in a really apathetic state where I couldn't feel like anything was worth it, because I thought this uni experience had just gone downhill severely. And while I always played games on the sidelines, the thing that really changed in that situation is that I said something to myself. I said that I will never, ever let a situation happen where I have a single moment in my life to be bored or depressed. Because when I had those games, and people didn't really understand this, but when I had those games, those are the only things that gave me positive reinforcement in life. People may not understand this, especially because they don't like the game series, but I'd say that I'm particularly fond of the Call of Duty series. Not for any reason in particular, but because I buy it every year and I enjoy it. And just going online, playing a few rounds, getting top of the leaderboard, that meant a lot to me. And the fact that I always had that meant so much more, because otherwise I'd just be sitting around being depressed. And people would always ask me that, oh, aren't you depressed that you don't get to go out and have fun? Aren't you depressed that you don't get to, meet all the nice girls and, sleep around and getting to crazy drunken parties and stuff like that? And I'm like, well, look, the truth is that I have no friends. Nobody cares about me, but I can't sit here and just wait for it to happen. I'm not going to sit here and wait for someone to come and secure my happiness for me, because I had those games and they inspired me. See, it wasn't just playing them. It changed my whole outlook, because what ended up happening was I began to realize that I could do things with these games, and I instantly said to myself, if this is what I'm going through, I'm sure people are going through worse. I want to create a situation where no one ever has to feel this bad again, that no one has to feel, this lonely again. And I thought, if I can take the skills that I've learned in my life and use it to make something meaningful for others, then I can take the same dedication, drive, and great feeling I get from playing games and put it into other stuff. And that's when I began to really focus on making videos. That's when I began to focus on doing more digital art for DeviantArt and stuff like that. And it is eventually what got me into game journalism and game writing in general. And in the end, after university concluded, and I still hadn't made any friends, all the adventures I'd had with the several games, they created completely irreplaceable memories. And people always still tell me that you know aren't you depressed you didn't make any friends? And I'm like, honestly, I could have just sat there and said my life sucks. University didn't go well, didn't make any friends, and nothing really went right at all. But the fact that I had games above all that's there for me, I think that meant a lot. It meant more than people would understand. It's part of the reason why I'm really partial to Call of Duty, but it's also part of the reason why games matter so much to me, because yeah, at the end of the day, they're just digital entertainment, sure, but it meant a lot. And that's why I said to myself, because I knew that despite my own circumstances, I knew that deep down, my experience wasn't anywhere near as harrowing as anyone else's, and that's why I set out to create a situation where I can give people the chance to succeed, to have their voice, to have fun. That's why I put so much effort into making YouTube videos to entertain people. I wanted to give people that situation where they just, they pop on a YouTube video and then after finishing it, they have a smile on their face, or it inspires them to play a game, or, it inspires them to share it with their friends, something to give them that, boost in life. Because sometimes you'd be sitting like myself, just lonely with no friends to talk to, and then you see a funny YouTube video and it just makes you laugh, or you play a game and then something really meaningful happens. So I think that's what formed the basis of, I guess, the rest of my life up until this point. So, as I said, while my experience wasn't anywhere near as harrowing as anyone else's, I definitely think that gaming was there for me, I think, when no one else was. So yeah, that's that's me.
Well, we are definitely all here because gaming means something to us.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks for listening. I think I talked a bit too long, but
Nah.
It's okay.
No problem.
yeah, I just felt I owed it to you guys to hear my side of the part of the story as well. So I'm
Well,
thanks for
Altaria
listening.
here, we do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Everyone
Definitely.
needs to hear all these different stories to really. These stories help humanize us in the eyes of others.
And we're Altaria here. We are all just human. Everyone is different. Everyone has different experiences. To ever submit to painting an entire group with the same brush is foolishness. And that's why we're here. We all have different stories.
I agree. And if I can recall, actually, or perhaps for the stream and for the future viewers, can you explain what brought the idea for this stream about? Because obviously they didn't see the Twitter conversation. So if you can give a quick explanation of why we decided to do this stream, that'd be useful.
We were arguing.
As you do.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. It was just an arguing and discussion on Twitter.
Well, right, but I'm saying, can you explain what the content of the argument was?
Well, let's see. Basically, my concept was, I believe, and because I tend to forgive and forget rather quickly, I can't recall exactly what was it that bothered me so. So could somebody re-educate me as to what was said?
I kind of forgive and forget pretty quickly too, because there's so much stuff going on that I need to focus on, like my streaming and my D&D.
Well, I do recall it had something to do with Gamergate, I think, but I don't remember the specifics because you guys were talking about it.
I believe it had something to do with why we were exactly fighting for everything. What was the point if we couldn't fight these people, with the idea that we're too often criticized and ridiculed because everything is going to make our position look bad, that we're going to have ourselves look bad regardless of if it's a troll or if one of us gets too emotional, and they're telling us we've got to control the entire world.
Oh right, it was basically there are people there was someone I came in when I noticed that someone was basically trying to say that we can't succeed because if any one person does something bad, we're all going to look the same.
That would be me.
Stuff like that.
Oh, so you suggested that because of the bad actions of the few, we keep getting labeled. Is that what your concern was?
Well, that's exactly what's been going on
Yeah.
with all these media streams and all these anti-Gamergate people. They are against our idea and our concepts because there's a few handfuls of people that say these mean things, say these awful things, either intentionally or because they're angry or because they're this or they're that, and they ignore the broader message that we're trying to get across, all for the sake of this one person that detracts from the entire conversation, and they make...
I mean, trust me, I know exactly how frustrating that is. In fact, I was talking about this on one of the streams with the women of Gamergate, where I don't know, I'd felt very shaken by the fact that when I read that article from The Escapist about the female game developers weighing in on Gamergate, and obviously they were, they're biased, they had their own experiences, but it just painted this picture that the hysteria, the narrative woven about the fact that it's, about harassment, it's about sexism, and it's scary to be a woman in gaming, like it really brought down this feeling that it's like no matter what we do, they're too scared to even think of giving Gamergate the time of day, and that bothered me personally. But I knew that deep down, we know what our experiences have been. We know what the facts are. We have people who support us, and we have to keep fighting for that. And if we're going to change that narrative, I mean, of course we can't change their opinions, and we certainly can't change their experiences, but we have to fight to change the overall narrative, because if we let this go on, then we'll just be just like every other industry that's ruled by fear and political correctness.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, I come into this and I spend my time, if I see someone being ganged up on, I go and I give them a reprieve. That's how I get the majority of my followers, is just people that I've gone in and, given them a reprieve, or I go in and I point out to the other side that, we're being harassed too. You keep saying cis white males are harassing your women. Well, they're harassing our women too, and they don't. And then they're all like, "Prove it, prove it." And then I show them link after link after link, and those are just trolls. Ignore them. And then I tell them, how can you say what's happening to us is just trolls, but what's happening to you isn't just trolls? And they don't seem to want to listen.
Yeah,
and you're right.
One of the things, this is Altaria here, one of the things I've hated about this entire movement, even though I've largely stayed uninvolved myself, I don't even have a Twitter, but Gwen's done most of the fighting. The thing I hate most about all of this is the whole eye for eye thing that's going on. Like, if you believe, just for the hypothetical sake of argument here, that the first person to dox another was a troll from Gamergate doxing someone from anti-Gamergate, but then anti-Gamergate is doxing people from Gamergate, and part of their argument is like, oh, they done it to us. And no, eye for an eye, just no.
And even worse, even if we haven't done anything, we are considered to be bad people, and it's okay to harass people that you consider bad because they're bad people that aren't nice and not good. I mean, that's part of the argument I have seen, is that we're automatically bad because we're gamers, and so it's okay to do bad things to us.
I mean, whatever.
No, but the biggest.
Yeah, whatever happened to human kindness.
No, the thing is,
shush.
the biggest hypocrisy, and if you ask me, bystander effect from the side of the gaming industry and media. I'm not talking about anti-Gamergate. I'm not talking about that dividing line. I'm talking about the fact that they will make mass hysteria out of any circumstance where just a couple of trolls, maybe 100 or so, are saying bad things, and they'll blow that up and say that this is on you, gamers. This is your fault. Why are you harboring bad people? Blah blah blah. You know, as
No,
if we're not
it's all people
self-policing. I
in
mean, I know, but give me a second. I'm getting to that. And they don't actually police their own at all. Look at the corruption that's been uncovered, the vitriol that's been said by these people, the things that have basically just been brushed away or ignored. That these people go on Twitter, berate gamers, say horrible things, say women have internalized misogyny and all that crap. And what are they doing about that? Where's their self-policing? They wash their hands of their colleagues and act like everything they say or do, it doesn't matter. It's a moot point. Who cares? And we are identifying these people as individuals, right? But they are saying these boogeymen trolls that they don't even ever give examples for are harassing women in the industry? Like, come on. What kind of hypocrisy is that? Of course there's harassment on both sides. But when it's done by the chosen few to specific targets, yeah, those are horrible incidents. But that shouldn't implicate everyone, and that shouldn't say we need to self-police better. And yet when your figureheads in the gaming industry are calling people names, generalizing, insulting people on Twitter, and you do nothing about it, and I'm sorry, how can I have sympathy for your problems? That's the honest truth. I know that seems very harsh to say, but these people are basically making hysteria out of threat narratives over small individual groups of people. Yet we are identifying key people within the game industry that are saying horrid things and they just pretend like it doesn't happen. How is that fair on anybody?
Exactly, and that's why I'm saying that people asking us to be civil aren't saying a fair thing. Yes, we should be civil. Yes, as far as Gamergate goes, we have been excessively civil considering the number of gamers who are just pissed off to no end. We have been extraordinarily civil towards as many people as possible, but we are on week 5 of this whole issue.
It's actually week 6, entering week 7.
Oh, God!
I know, right?
We're on week 6 of this issue, and they're saying we've got to be as
crazy.
civil as possible in order for us to even be taken remotely seriously. You are asking us to police a massive group of people who are growing more and more pissed off by the day. If the full outrage of gamers came out, if the full wave of gamers came to attack, they would have to give up because there would be too many people. We are the most controlled, outraged group in history.
No,
Yep. Seriously, though, the double standards are real.
Yeah.
For Zoe Quinn, how it feels to be attacked by every troll on the internet. And I said on my Twitter, I think it was my personal Twitter, that if you got attacked by every troll on the internet, you would need an exabyte-sized hard drive just to deal with the load.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously that's an exaggeration, but seriously, if these people really think that it's a concerted effort by a lot of gamers, oh my god, you'd be shocked what would happen if we all put our heads together to attack somebody. Trust me.
The heck, the amount of tweets to female gamers basically stating, oh, you're not real, female gamers don't exist, you're just a male with a sock puppet account.
Hits or GTFO.
That is more degrading to women than anything I've heard playing Call of Duty, in my opinion.
Well,
that's a really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, the sock puppet accusations, though. I mean, God.
A lot of us have just started posting pictures of sock puppets in response.
Yeah, and it's
I
like,
thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean,
But
that is funny as well.
Sorry. Some people have actually posted pictures of themselves like, hello, not a sock puppet.
Exactly.
And it's like...
You're right.
We shouldn't have to, because when it comes right down to it, when I go and I play a game, I go in the game lobby, no one asks me if I'm male, female, all they care about is if the way I want to play the game will fit the way they want to play the game. Gamers, up until this point, have never asked, are you male, are you female, are you white, black, or disabled? It's these guys that care, not gamers.
And the thing to mention as well, without really going into too many specifics, another thing that shows a complete, I don't know, a side of ignorance as well as a lack of empathy, is when I hear these people saying that, oh, they're so scared because they say something on the internet, they get harassed for it. Well, guess freaking what? You opened your mouth on the internet. Everybody gets harassed. Don't act like this is a specific issue. Don't act like it's attacking women directly. The fact of the matter is, we all have struggles because guess what? People aren't nice. And expecting gamers to somehow be held responsible for the actions of random trolls is completely insane. And then saying that it's like, oh, we don't even know if we should care about gamers because of this. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Like, the one who has an unrealistic expectation here is you. Because you're basically saying that you want a situation where you can go online, say whatever you want, and get zero backlash for it. Here's the thing, and even from personal experience, when I made the Not Your Shield account, it started off with like 10 followers, just a bunch of people that knew me and were, trying to help me out. Now, today, it breached 1,000, and that was pretty profound to me. I mean, that's more followers than my personal account, like 10 times more. And that's just 1,000. Some people on Twitter, they have tens of thousands of followers. They have hundreds of followers, right? You get all sorts of people. So if you say something online, unfortunately, you're going to get all the bad people. And I think what bothers me the most is when these people with so much power and influence and, followers, they just take the people who are detracting them and they blow that up more than the people who love them and support them. Because literally, it's like somebody picking out one person in a crowd that's, looking away or not paying attention to them and ignoring the millions of screaming fans they have. How is that a fair representation of anything? I remember once, and to give another anecdote, there was a YouTuber who had risen to fame through making lots of really funny compilation videos. He was really great, and of course he'd get criticism. Sometimes he'd get dislikes. Sometimes he'd say something people didn't like it. But he had hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and he got guaranteed at least over 10,000 views per video. It just doesn't matter what he uploaded, and he was really, really loved. And then he had this ridiculous victim complex where every time someone criticized him, he'd always say, "Oh, look at all the hate mail I get. Look at all the stuff people are saying." And that used to irk me so much. Like, well, why are you emphasizing your haters so much? Your followers, the people that love you, severely outnumber the people that hate you. But eventually, it reached a point where he just shut down his channel, and I was like, why? No, you had haters, and that's horrible. But by shutting down your channel, you shut out all the people that love and support you. And that just it didn't make me feel sad. That just annoyed me because it's like, you took your victim complex so seriously that you basically just hurt everybody that cared about you. How do your fans who've stuck with you for the past 5 years feel that you basically said, screw you, a couple of haters made me feel bad? That's what I'm seeing happen right now, where people who are public figures, they can't take the heat just for existing on the internet. And then they basically say that this is someone else's problem to deal with. And I don't understand that logic. I mean, I know I've been rambling, but that's really how I feel about it personally. That's why I'm so adamant about this, and that's why I won't stand for these people, calling women sock puppets and saying that, you're not doing enough to self-police yourself. I won't stand for it at all.
Yeah, I'm personally not going to want to see gamers treated like this anymore, and I'm pretty much going to take this fight until the very end if I have to.
You've got a sister in arms right here until this ends.
We've got to take a stand now as gamers and say that we cannot have our fellow gamer be treated like this by media, by people anymore. It's got to end. It's got to stop. It's got to be taken care of now. We've got to take our stand.
No more bullying.
We are done.
Exactly. Like, it's funny because people don't understand that the origins of Gamergate, and in fact this is highly relevant to this stream, that people, not just straight white men and women from all walks of life, like yourselves, have been through so much in your lives. You've been through so much crap, and gaming has saved you. And we trusted our gaming media to represent us because the developers have been there for us. They've made the games that have made our lives so enriched. And to see these people, these game writers and game journalists who are supposed to represent us, basically turn the knife on us as well, how do you think that makes someone feel? To quote Shakespeare, to brute. And you, Brutus, you too would stab us in the back. The world has ostracized us. The world has made fun of us. We found solace in our own gaming community. And now you're going to let these social justice warriors and agenda-driven people co-opt the hobby, make everything politicized, and then crap on us when we dare have an opinion? Like, how were we supposed to react to that? People think that Gamergate is just a bunch of angry people getting mad about the fact that the media can be corrupt. No, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Sure, it had some bumpy origins, but nobody's talking about literally who, and nobody's talking about, the feminist media critic. What we are talking about is the fact that we won't stand for the fact that gamers have been treated like this for years. It's been a long time coming, and it had to happen.
Oh, yeah.
I greenlit literally who.
Yeah. Well, I mean, oh shoot, I forgot what I was. Oh, there we go. I think, we know that people shill and people use their, personality or their connections, but, this is a thing that has always existed to compare this to an issue that is currently going on in the United States. You may have heard of Citizens United. It was basically a law that our Senate enacted, which is sort of comparable to Supreme Court. Supreme Court allowed this to pass. It basically allows political groups and, was it just political groups or was it individuals as well?
And individuals.
Yeah. It allowed anyone, whether they represented themselves as a private citizen or as a company, spend whatever amount of money they wanted to fund politicians or donate to their campaigns. And, I think it's understood that politics happens. I mean, we have the word politics. But there is a line that, can be crossed. It was crossed in United States politics with Citizens United,
Yeah.
and that sort of line has been crossed with Gamergate now. Is, you can't just do things wantonly. You just can't do whatever you want. I mean,
Forever.
Yeah, be responsible about it. Don't backstab. Don't,
Don't hurt.
like one particular person who shall not be named was, there's a screen cap of it, threatening people with, I have connections, you have no idea what I could do to you.
What, you mean the megaphone lady?
Megaphone lady. Sorry.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Just ridiculous behavior, and then nobody thinks that's not problematic. Ooh, but a bunch of random internet trolls are, of course. Ridiculous.
Not only that, but some people have been getting accused of peddling child porn. That's the thing that gets me. It's just...
Oh, what you mean when they sent it to Anita Sarkeesian?
Yeah.
Right, and that's what's so messed up about that is this is another classic case of a bunch of messed up people on the internet did messed up things, and then they say, oh my god, it's the gamers. This is what Gamergate's about. And the fact that people would believe this threadbare threat narrative, that's what disturbs me the most.
But that about anyone else.
That's what actually disturbs me the most. That's like me saying, I mean, this is talking about, the Not Your Shield account. That's like me saying that, oh my god, you guys, somebody said something nasty to me, all of you are like this, I hate you all now. Like, that's basically what it would be. And what would bother me isn't the narrative itself. What bothers me is that people believe it.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have been seeing the daily Gamergate report that Sox has been posting on her YouTube, but...
Yeah, I've been watching them.
Oh yeah, if you haven't seen those, go check them out. Definitely, if you're looking for some the newer stuff that's been going on. But some of the things that she's been talking about that pro Gamergate people have been dealing with, like the guy who created the Not Your Shield hashtag, got
He got
fired
fired. Yeah, he got fired.
because SJWs were harassing his coworkers. That is taking things too far. If you want to disagree, fine. But you do not accuse someone of peddling child porn. You do not intentionally go out of your way to get someone that you don't personally know fired from their job just because they disagree with you.
Yeah, I mean, like, wasn't there that whole blow up because Jen Frank got fired? And mind you, I got nothing against Jen Frank personally, but the fact is that Jen Frank gets fired over some muddled up ethics on her fault. That was her fault, right? I don't care what the details are, but that was on her. She gets fired over some muddled up ethics, right? And that becomes newsworthy. But people who support Gamergate are getting fired and docked left, right, and center. Where are the articles for that? Huh? Where's the coverage for that? Nowhere.
Actually, I think she's actually back and has a new article, if I recall correctly.
She probably does. I wouldn't be surprised. No, I mean, it's just where is the representation for what's happening to us? You know, where are these articles saying how much? Because like literally, you type in Gamergate and you check the news section on Google, and you'll see nothing but articles saying Gamergate is misogyny, women are suffering in the industry, blah 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 blah. But here's the funny thing: have you noticed that none of these articles mention the gamers themselves? They're always talking about how women in the media and women in the industry are targets of harassment and blah blah blah. But they don't care what happens to the female gamers because to them, you guys don't exist.
Actually, there's an interesting thought. Where are the anti-Gamergate's positive messages towards gamers and uniting people alike?
Yeah, I don't see any.
Positive doesn't actually make money. In fact, I'm not sure if you got
That is true.
when's the last time you saw an article from Polygon, Kotaku, or and any of those other, sites, basically talking to female gamers, interviewing them, doing surveys, actual scientific research? When's the last time they actually gave female gamers a voice? Because I can't remember.
When was the last time they did journalism and journalistic research?
Exactly. When's the last time?
Remember how they asked Anita Sarkeesian and then asked the police whether or not they got a phone call about her harassment on August 28th?
Oh, yeah. I saw that on Joe.
Imagine how gamers wouldn't have been confused that it had went to the FBI if people had actually done some investigative research.
And they have the audacity to ask us for proof.
And yeah, it's not even just the
when
game.
we're doxxed.
Even websites like even news sites like BBC, they just reported on it superficially. When the biggest news websites are superficially reporting on something to feed into a narrative, you know that there's something wrong. You know that this goes pretty deep, and that really bothered me that these people wouldn't even bother to contact the police. Or worse, when Christina Hoff Sommers was made fun of by like everyone, they called her conservative. Yeah, real journalistic work there.
I heard about that. I couldn't believe it. Gamers are calling this feminist mom. Literally, people are calling her mom.
Yeah, based mom.
Gamers are just woman haters, sexist, misogynistic, hater pigs.
There have been people discrediting her simply because she actually came to us and talked to us about it. Oh, you actually talk to gamers? No one wants to hear that.
Yeah, I know, like that contempt that people had, basically, for the fact that she actually talked to us, engaging with the community, what's known as ethnography, which is a part of scientific research, talking to the people you're talking about, not just assuming you know what they think. Because it seems to be too difficult for these people. All they want to do is basically say that, yeah, women think this, minorities think this. That's about it. No, you talk to these people, you ask them, you interview them, you get a fair representation of it. But apparently that's an alien concept to them. So when some people like Nero, people like Adam Baldwin, people like Christina Sommers actually talk to gamers, they can't believe it. It's like, you talk to gamers? Oh my god.
I actually want to mention something.
Go ahead.
So looking at a lot of people are saying, oh, well, there is no message. The Gamergate people don't actually have a message when we do have several very clear messages. This is the exact same thing that the exact same gaslighting that happened to Occupy Wall Street. Their message was the banks are bad and they're doing bad things. But the media, the people with the power, the people that were paid by the banks, because Citizens United and similar things had been going on, they kept reporting that Occupy Wall Street had no message. And now they're reporting that Gamergate has no message.
Well, the problem for them is we are gamers. We have sat through games for literally years upon years just to master them. And we can do this on our free time, on our off time, when we are at home. We aren't going away. We aren't disappearing because we can occupy them in a way that Occupy Wall Street couldn't. We can make the message very clear eventually, and they can't ignore us forever.
Yeah,
Hail gamers!
You're right, and it's funny because they thought, I've said this before in previous streams and in previous videos, but these people think we're stupid. Every time they do something, they count on this presumed stupidity that we're just going to sit there and take it, like we don't have archives of links, tweets, pictures, etc. They think that the internet has selective memory when they're the ones with selective memory. We don't forget things. In fact, what I find funny is whenever something happens, like an issue happens, and people are like, how did this happen? I'm like, because you fail to heed history, and this is why you're repeating it. See, gamers, we're not stupid. We're not as stupid as they seem to think we are. We're not as sexist as they want us to be. And we're certainly not as hateful as in general the media tries to paint us as. And it's disturbing that when the whole Jack Thompson thing happened, the media acted very apathetic to it. They kind of just reported on it, and when he was debunked, everyone kind of sang praises that, yeah, we took down the boss. But when this, cultural Marxism began to take hold, they basically threw the lot in, and it just goes to show that they realized that they could make money off of this. They could make bank off of this, and that's why they're perfectly okay with exploiting the gamers that they were supposed to be working for, because to them, they hold us in contempt. They think we're just a bunch of losers. Worse yet, they think we're a bunch of just straight white male guy losers all the time.
Well, I am straight white male, but
right, but I'm saying that's the problem.
There's nothing wrong with being a straight white male.
No, there isn't. That's what I'm saying. That they want to set
tell
up a
me
situation.
I am. They tell me I am.
I know. I'm saying they're setting up a situation where if you're straight, white, and male, then you're basically the devil, and if you're not, then you don't exist. And that's the problem. It's a dichotomy where you have to be the boogeyman they're creating, and they'll demonize that. And if you're not the boogeyman that they're creating, they'll just wave you away. They'll just brush you off like you don't exist. That's the problem. Either way, they're creating a hate narrative. They're creating a situation where people who have had their lives positively impacted by gaming, like yourselves, are just being treated in such a horrific and unfair way. And I just don't think that anybody needs to stand to that, because this isn't like money is being stolen from anyone's pocket, and this isn't like people are being physically assaulted or anything, but this is moral hate crime through negligence, through ignorance, and worst of all, through social justice. And I think that's perhaps the most perverse of them all, the fact that people actually think they're doing the right thing.
It's really sad when Encyclopedia Dramatica are doing a better job at being more, I guess, objective. Towards the whole thing.
You mean it's not bad that it's Breitbart that's actually being more objective journalists?
Well, no, it's like, you look at a lot of the news articles that pop up. I have a thing on my Windows phone where I get notifications whenever something with Gamergate in the title pops up. And then I look at Encyclopedia Dramatica, and I don't feel as insulted on Encyclopedia Dramatica as I do on actual quote-unquote journalistic articles. And there's something wrong with that.
A couple of the small channels on the Young Turks network have come out in support of our side, but not the main channel. I'm sure if the main one could be convinced there is a diversity issue here, like NYS, they might be interested. They're actually really level-headed. compared to all the other libs, and they tend to yell mostly at other libs.
I mean, I'd hope so, and I just hope that they don't try to, turn us into a tool for political gain either, because I feel like what's been happening for years, and what really set me off and, set me onto the path to creating the Not Your Shield Twitter account is simply that for years, the media, game journalists, game media as a whole has lied and misrepresented the voices of women and minorities for years simply to feed into an idea that we can, they're victims, they're treated badly, they hate the content of games just so they can get all the clicks on their articles and they can get all the money. And quite frankly, these people don't care about actual, change. They don't care about actual, social justice in the literal sense. They're just doing it to line their pockets because it's convenient to make clickbait, because it's convenient to say things that stir people up. In the end of the day, they don't care. They're just going to be talking to each other and laughing in bars, saying that, oh, you see this inflammatory article I wrote. They don't care about the dissonance it's creating. And then they lie to your face and say that, no, we're doing this for diversity. We're doing this to help women out. When actually they don't care about the rift that it could create between male and female gamers. They don't care about how it's misrepresenting and ignoring the voices of female gamers themselves. And that to me was the unforgivable thing.
Sorry.
Um,
Just gonna say they're doing more harm to female gamers than anyone else, really.
Oh God, yes.
But yeah, my big thing is I almost decided to end it all, and gaming is what kept me around. And as far as I'm concerned, one of my missions in life that kept me around was wanting to make sure other people could enjoy the joy of games. So they've messed with the wrong crowd. There's many of us that are going to sit here, and all that free time most of that free time we would have spent gaming, we will spend defending and trying to stop this bullying, because we almost died once. We have nothing to lose now.
Exactly.
Right, and because the thing is, people keep saying that this is about not. First of all, the idea that it's about misogyny, we're not even going to entertain that, right? But the people saying that this is about rejecting change or diversity, or this is about rejecting new forms of gaming, or this is about political leftism and political rightism. No, it's not. The thing that people don't get is everybody in gaming is biased to some degree. We're all from different parts of the world. We're all from different ideologies, cultures, races, etc. Right? We all have different ideas, but the difference is what we care about are our games, which are free from that. Because in the world of gaming, these things don't matter. And of course, there are parts of it. Of course, certain ideologies and ideals will be pushed through gaming. But the fact of the matter is, these things don't define the games and they don't define the people playing them. What we reject isn't diversity. What we reject isn't politics. What we reject is certainly not gender. What we're rejecting is intentionally going out of their way to make games less about fun and entertainment and great times and more about those things like politics, agendas, gender-driven ideas, etc. That's the problem. Because the thing is, there's so many things that people want for games that involve those things, such as politics and gender. However, we're not trying to make the entirety of games like that. But these people are. What we're rejecting is we're rejecting a co-opting of cultural Marxism. It's as simple as that.
Here's the reason I think we will succeed where Occupy Wall Street failed. Occupy Wall Street was a lot about the money distribution. Gamergate, we are about the games, we are about the people in games, and we are about avoiding this type of censorship that we've been seeing. We're not in it for the money. We aren't doing it for the money. We are doing it for the future of gaming.
Exactly. Because think of it this way. Why do we want to have a future? Because to make this relevant to the stream, why do we want to have a future where our friends, our family, perhaps even our kids, they don't get to have those warm, life-changing experiences from games? Why do they need to have games that push agendas and talk about different aspects of the sexuality and gender and politics and stuff like that that puts them in their place and reminds them. See, people escape to gaming, a place where gaming can make them anything, not a place where gaming can remind them of what they are. And I don't want that for anyone, not for my friends, not for my older or younger friends, not for my future kids or whatever. I don't want them to not have that gaming experience because games will change. Some will be good, some will be bad, but games will always be games. And I want those games to be there for people like they were there for me. And to see these people trying to co-opt the hobby and change it to something it shouldn't be, that's ridiculous. And mind you, if people want to make games specifically with gender-driven bias or political ideals, that's fine. Nobody's saying you can't do that. The problem we have is they're trying to change the current games. Because if a bunch of people had a ton of money and basically just said, oh, I want to make this, and that game, who cares, right? People would play that. They have their own little community. That's great. But what people do care about is the fact that these people are trying to change the games that we know and love. And that we can't stand for that. If they want to make their own games, fine. But leave ours alone. And that's what I say. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that's what I think.
Remember, games as we knew and loved them, the way they were, the way they have been, and the way they have been made, gave at least 4 of us in here a future that we otherwise wouldn't have had. What would these political games have given us back then?
I mean, exactly. It would have been the equivalent of trying to sell you travel insurance or give you some kind of message like the moral of the story or something like that. I mean, the experiences that have really defined people's lives are stuff like Legend of Zelda and Mario and so on, where people are given like fantasy and people are given a chance to talk with each other and find out different things that you share in common. But games that are politicized and games that are not really about the enjoyment but more about the agenda, I think that's not entertaining. That's not something people will love. And I think if somebody wants to do that to games, it proves that they don't actually care about games. And I hate to pull up this card, but I feel like a lot of these people who criticize the games, they don't even play them. Sometimes I find people are criticizing games they aren't even going to play. Like when people get mad at the content of certain games, they're not even going to play them. Yet they're saying they don't like it and it shouldn't be there. How is that fair on anyone?
This kind of reminds me of I've been watching this documentary lately about the video nasties, which, for those of you who don't know, it was this list of films in England in the 1980s that were basically, if you were a video seller and you got caught selling these, you'd go to jail. One of the big people behind it was being interviewed, and this is in the documentary. And she point blank said, "I have not watched any of the films." And the guy interviewing her said, "Well, how do you know that? How do you know what you're complaining about?" "Oh, I don't need to. I know what's in those movies." And this whole thing is reminding me of that. It's the same thing over and over again. Whenever there's a medium that people don't understand, they're going to try and blame it for the world's troubles. It sucks.
Right.
It happens.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, because at first it was like, oh, video games promote violence. We said that's crap. Now it's video games promote sexism, racism, homophobia, etc. When people don't get that it's actually video games that often prevent those feelings, often prevent like stuff like racism, sexism, homophobia, because they actually bring people together, and they show that no matter what you are or where you're from, you're equal in the face of gaming. So these people, the fact that they would say that gaming is promoting the very thing it's fighting against is absurd. And the examples they use are completely ridiculous. It's like, it's one thing to have an opinion, but some things are just going too far.
It's all about having fun. And whenever my boyfriend's 6-year-old niece comes over and gets on the PS3 and starts playing Minecraft, just the look of joy on her face when she figures out how to make something, or when she just finished a house she was working on, makes it worth it. And that is one of the things that I am fighting for, that she can grow up to be my age and play video games and not have to worry about this crap.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of us played gaming because we wanted to escape from the crap in real life, that we felt that gaming was a safe haven where we didn't have to deal with stuff like political agendas and, sex wars or whatever. But then, obviously, it caught up with us as gaming became more mainstream, and that's fine. That's what happens to any maturing medium. But it doesn't have to be about that. We can talk about these things, but to me, what should matter above all else is the experience. Because, like, once I had a crappy day, right? Nothing really went well, and I was just kind of very lethargic and angsty. And then I decided to go on Xbox Live. I saw my friend on there, and he had a game that I had, and I was like, "Oh, awesome! Let's play it together." So when we were playing it, despite the game itself being really fun and really engaging, there's this moment where I was supposed to help him do something because it's a co-op game, and I accidentally like glitched, and my character spun in a circle, and we just both burst out laughing. And that a moment like that, that was just it was golden. It was funny, and it's something we always joke about to this day. And that's something we don't want to lose. That's the experience that we love. It's an experience free of prejudice, free of bias, free of agenda or a narrative or anything. And that's why games matter so much to people. And I think gamers don't want to lose that. It's as simple as that.
I believe it's best said, let's judge the game after it exists instead of making the game change before it has a chance to be. We wouldn't have made the Mona Lisa a man before it existed. We wouldn't have made the Mona Lisa with a mustache before it existed. We got to judge that after it was. Let's stop trying to make the game something it was never intended to be before it ever is.
Yeah, exactly. Like once a game is out, you're free to criticize its content. You're free to criticize what's in it. You're free to say, well, I don't really like it, or I'm not a big fan of it. That's fine. And you might suggest your own changes, but above all else, if you want a change, you should do it. Be the change you want to be. You be the change you want to see. Sorry. If you
they hate hearing that.
Yeah, they always make excuses. I mean, I'm sorry. Like I admit, not everybody has the opportunity. If you don't have the opportunity, then fine. But if you don't have the opportunity, then don't complain. But if you have the money and the time, do something about it. And this is using myself as an example, I didn't really like the state of game journalism, the way people just write clickbait articles and just make crap up and basically just berate the readers and insult gamers and say misogyny, this, sexism, that. So you know what I did? I became a game journalist. I started writing. I started talking to people. I got my own voice. Nowadays, what I do is I write positive articles. I talk about social issues. I talk about science. I talk about how gamers interact on a basic level. And I basically began to promote positivity through game journalism. I didn't like the state of the industry, so I did something about it. That's how it works. You be the change you want to see. You don't just say the content of gaming is bad and you should feel bad. You think the content of gaming isn't that great, and I can do something to change that. And I can do that by making my own games. I can do that by suggesting changes. I can do that by talking to the industry, or I can do that by talking to gamers. It's as simple as that. This is a consumerist, medium. That's how change comes about. And quite frankly, what I find funny is a lot of these SJWs think that if they take gaming in a certain direction, then it's gonna change the industry. But here's the thing: these people have to be willing to pay up, because us as gamers, we've been in this for the long haul. We've paid the money. We've gotten all the stupid DLC expansion packs and the limited editions. We've waited outside in line for the new, big AAA release. If these people want to see a change in the industry, they're going to be willing to cough up the dough. It's as simple as that.
And we know a lot of those things are stupid. Oh, Lisa, I've been talking for a bit too long. You go ahead.
No, you're right. You're right.
I do have one thing to say, and then I'm actually going to have to take off. Something
Oh,
else
that's fine.
that, with a lot of people, myself included, that video games inspire are creativity. After seeing some behind-the-scenes stuff on different video games and how they were made, I've started trying to learn how to use ZBrush, the main sculpting program that most game character designers use to get the basic overall character done. And I've been trying to learn how to use various gaming engines. There's a fighting game engine from Japan that was released for free. I can't remember the name of it, but been trying to learn all these engines because I'm going to say this. If they want to make change, stop bitching about it and actually do something.
Exactly.
You can make an entertaining game with a strong female protagonist. It's been done for decades at this point.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy too. Nowadays, we have tools online. Anybody can buy and rent the Unreal Engine or the Crytek engine, Unity, etc. You could easily get into the game development process, and it doesn't have to be a big AAA game, but you can make something yourself that you can be proud of to spread your message. You can inject as much political bias as you want into it because it's something you made, and then you'll find an audience that will appreciate that, but don't take away from other people what they love. And even if you find it problematic, even if you find it offensive, that's not your call to make. Those people love and enjoy it. They don't find it offensive. They love it. If you find it offensive, that says more about you than the thing itself. It's simple as that.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's been fun. Sorry I gotta take off so early, but
No, I mean,
thank
that's fine. I mean, as I
you
said, I
so much
wasn't
for having
planning
me
on
on
letting
here.
this. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, thanks for coming, and thanks for sharing your story.
No problem. I will see you guys later.
All right, thank you very much.
And we do know that the game industry has its ups and downs and its bad things in it. We've known that for decades before these people started interjecting themselves into things. The only difference is they are trying to make games something else without being a consumer of these games and say that they are going to be the consumers of these games when
Yeah, I
it
mean,
gets to their like.
yeah, you're right. Like they're trying to force change, but they don't understand that change is something, especially in a capitalist industry. Change is something that happens naturally over time when supply meets demand. I mean, I gave this example in a previous stream that, something like Dark Souls took off the ground because it gained, you know, a cult status support. It gained worldwide support from gamers. If somebody came along with an idea like Dark Souls and forced people into liking it, saying, this is good, you should like it, this is what games should be, nobody would have given it the time of day. But Dark Souls as a game came out, people played it, they enjoyed it, and they loved it. And that's why it's where it is now, because the supply, met the demand. It's as simple as that. And that's what needs to happen with all new forms of medium. Games can be diverse, but they don't have to go out of their way to berate people into liking something that they potentially wouldn't like. And I mean, all things considered, right? It's all opinion at the end of the day, and I don't think that anybody should be forced into in one way of thinking. I feel like there needs to be general skepticism. People need to have their own opinion. They have to, trust but verify. They have to, make up their own minds about stuff. And okay, I think Gwen left the stream. I'm not sure what
Yeah,
happened.
it
I'm
looks
sure
like
she
they both
disconnected.
left the stream at the moment. I'm not sure if Gwen is done or if she thought it was done because
No, she didn't
Lisa
say anything.
left.
Uh, I mean, to be fair, while this seems a bit awkward, to be fair, as I said, I wasn't planning on letting the stream go on for too long. Plus, this was a special stream. It was kind of spur of the moment. So I don't know. I think we can bring this to a close. This doesn't need to be too long.
Exactly.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, thanks, because I've already said it to Lily. Uh, Lisa. Wow, I'm getting so confused. I already said it to Lisa, but yeah, I just want to thank all of you guys, yourself included, for coming on here and sharing your stories. So while this wasn't necessarily too directly related to Gamergate and Archer Shield, it certainly is a big part of what defines our reasons for doing this. And I think it was worthwhile. Definitely, it was interesting to hear your stories. So thanks for coming on.
You take care.
All right, thanks for joining. And to all my listeners, thank you for listening. And see you later.